Now, the award-winning South African baritone Njabulo Madlala is a rising star on the European opera circuit. He regularly appears at international concerts and has even performed at the world-famous Glyndebourne Opera Festival. Well, this month, Njabulo is swapping Puccini for classics of a very different kind as he treads the boards at Ronnie Scott's, London's iconic jazz venue. Well, Njabulo now joins me in the studio, but before we meet him, let's hear his amazing voice in action. Njabulo, welcome. That was absolutely beautiful. Now, that was a piece from Puccini?
Yes, Puccini, Edgar. It's an opera, one of his first operas that he wrote, and it's not very much performed, but it's one of his beautiful opera.
Why is it underperformed?
It's because I think it was too long, and it was probably a very big opera compared to the others. And so it's kind of, and it didn't have quite the same as success as La Bohème and Tosca. Yeah.
But you obviously love performing it.
Yeah, you know, there are certain parts of it that are just absolutely gorgeous, and some others that were not as he later did.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful performance, so hopefully we'll get more of it later.
Thank you.
But I mean, just when I've spoken to quite a few South African musicians, and they tend to focus on pop music, whatever the other genres of that are. It's the first time that I have spoken to a South African opera star. I mean, is opera very popular in South Africa, and how did you get into it?
You know, opera has become very popular in South Africa because we have a big choral network in South Africa. Everybody sings in a choir of some sort. It's either church choir, school choir. It's a social event in South Africa. And as times have moved on and we have gone over the apartheid era, we have been allowed to explore the European music. So the choirs now sing a lot of extracts from operas, and this is how we've come to connect with opera. And it's turned out that there's a lot of South Africans who are very talented in opera, and so it's really been picked up by the community there.
I mean, it's interesting as well, because you were talking about the power of gospel choirs, etc. And if you look at the American music scene, there are lots of popular American singers who started off in gospel, and they wanted to perform as soul or rock or whatever. And South Africa seems to have followed that line, but steered it towards classical music.
Yeah, because, you know, as you know, again, it goes back to that time where people were brought together by song. And whereas maybe a lot of people were not as religious as people in America, the songs were their prayer. So it meant that, you know, through that, a lot of artists were discovered. And it's said that song was one of the great struggles of the, you know, it's one of the tools that won the struggle of South African.
But it's also a tool of empowerment as well, because, you know, for yourself, for example, you were able to leave the country and carve out this phenomenal career. I mean, if you hadn't had opera, how do you think your life would have been?
I think it would have turned out very differently. You know, I come from a home in South Africa where really there was very little in a township, and we were quite poor at home. And when I was finishing school, I probably wasn't going to be one of those who go to university. But having started singing and having discovered opera through a tape that my grandmother brought from work one day, I discovered something that led me to arrive in London and get a scholarship to go and study. So in fact, it really changed my life.
Because I was reading your biography, a potted version of your biography, and your abiding memories of your grandmother pottering around the house and singing. So that filled the house with music.
Yeah, and that's one of the still great memories, you know, of going to sleep with my grandmother singing lullabies, which I now sing as well in concerts along opera.
So in actual fact then, those lullabies that you sing in the operas, you're actually inviting this audience of strangers into your past.
Into that music too, yeah. And in fact, I've also found a lot of commonality within music. You know, the other is a South African lullaby, but there is an emotion that is consistent, and you find it in opera. You know, and so it's a very interesting mix. Yeah.
What is the most challenging role that you've ever had vocally?
Scarpia.
The villain.
In Tosca. But it was great fun. I mean, it's a huge music, and it was my first time to do such big singing, and it was really great fun.
Because that is a big role, because he is the villain.
Yeah, he's the villain.
And he tries to compromise Tosca's virtues. So to actually capture the brilliance of the voice and this sinister presence on the stage.
Yeah, and that was really a lot of fun. It was at Grange Park Opera,
Okay. Well, before we look ahead as well, because you will be working at Ronnie Scott's, I'd like to introduce the audience to you singing a famous song by Miriam Makeba, the Click Song.
Yes.
Here you are.
Okay.
Now, everyone on that stage is having fun, and just to put it in context, I mean, it looked like great fun, but to put it in context, that's actually at Ronnie Scott's where you are performing.
At Ronnie Scott's, and we're doing the same concert next week on the 29th in the evening. And it's a group of, actually, most musicians play classical music, and we've come together, which is why it's called Classic Kicks, and we come together to explore songs from our home countries. And of course, within the context of Ronnie Scott's, so we throw it around a little bit and we go a bit jazzy.
And I suppose it's quite nice as well to break away from the formality of classical music, because everyone really has let rip there. I mean, tell us about this event. When does it start?
So this event is a new thing that a friend of mine is curating. Her name is Lizzie Ball, and it's a thing that's going to go on until about July. But this is one of the first concerts, 2029, at Ronnie Scott's.
Okay then.
Yeah.
And in terms of what you do after that, in the available time, what's on the agenda?
So I'm then starting rehearsing at the beginning of February with English touring opera in La Bohème. I'm singing Schunart. And that tours around England until April. And then I go to South Africa. In South Africa, I do an educational program for young singers who are wanting to go into opera and follow in the steps of many South Africans who've gone abroad. And that is in July and August. It's a training program over 2 months. And then I come back with more concerts at Cadogan Hall here in London.
And that really is a very prestigious venue as well, Cadogan Hall.
Yeah, and I go to Lithuania and America,
You're going to be very busy. Will you have the energy to find a gap in your timetable to come back and tell us how your work's going?
Definitely. I would love to.
Excellent. Look, that is absolutely brilliant. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Good
Thank
luck.
you for having me.
You're going to Ronnie Scott's this month, so thank you so much, and good luck with your work.